an unscheduled guest. Just shows up. It's called the titi. And they should be considered a representative of the Supreme Lord, since his arriving unannounced is just what the Lord might do to test his devotee. And see how ready he is to serve him. So a guest shows up and you accept him as your guest is like God in your house. And you treat him that way. Okay. So in other words, it's, your guest shows up, in the West, you're like, why didn't you call me? What's wrong with you? I got things to do. I can't take care of you. Yes? That's the Western, right? You expect me to just stop everything and take care of you? Yeah? So in Indian culture, no, guest shows up. You treat him like God. You accept him as a representative of God. Yeah, it doesn't mean if it's scheduled you don't treat him that way. You also treat him that way when it's scheduled. That's why you'll find you'll never be taken care of as well anywhere as you will in the home of an Indian, because you're a guest, and a guest is a representative of God. So you're well taken care of. So now they're talking about taking care of guests that come to the temple. So how you take care of a guest can make the difference between a person coming once and never coming back or returning. They said that one of the qualities of Bill Clinton was that when he was with people, he made them feel like they were the most important people in the world. Or they say, when you're dealing with a guest or a customer, they say that you should feel like the whole business depends on how you deal with this one person. Isn't that nice? Like however you deal with somebody, it's like you want to deal with them as best you can, as if your business depended on. Every devotee should learn how to take care of guests. But the devotees who are at the temple all the time, they should be expert. You take care of guests here?
Yes.
No, pero en el templo. You refer to the temple?
No, en el templo
no. No. They say that the temple.
What, they neglect the guests when they come? Because they think, oh no, the guests are coming, they'll get maha and I won't. Yeah.
They don't have that mood of like going and taking care of the guests.
There was an incident, I believe, I forget, something to the effect that some people came to the temple and there wasn't prasadam. So this came to Prabhupada's attention. Or there was some problem where guests weren't. It might have been a feast that was not well prepared. Or it was actually really, really bad. Nobody ate it. It was so bad. Something to that effect. But inspired Prabhupada, and he said that you should always have prasadam at the temple for guests. So when Prabhupada said this, I was in San Diego, and I think we had cooked extra maha, and we kept it just for guests, just in case guests would come. We didn't know how many would come, but we always had like puris and sabji and halava. Sorry, it's kadasi. I shouldn't have said that. Always had puris made with a kadasi flour and halava made with a kadasi flour. And then if there was leftovers, then the devotees would eat it that night or the next day. But we'd always have enough extra maha. We'd cook extra just for guests. Because Prabhupada was adamant about that. You always have to have prasadam for guests. And somebody at the temple who has the key to get it and offer it. It was really, I think he said you'd always have enough for 20 men at any time. And once you distribute for the 20, then you cook. You cook more. That was probably when that letter came out, most temples did it. I don't know if most temples do it now. Of course, a lot of temples have restaurants. It is a fact that pujaris like Mahaprasadam a lot. Yes? And they, it's kind of their reward for being pujaris, right? Isn't it? Maha? Anyway, you could pass the message on here. That was Prabhupada's instruction, and that extra should be cooked and kept for guests. But you need of course, you need somebody that takes care of guests. Otherwise, who will give it to them? So, how do you receive a guest? You give them proper respect, including food. This is how you respect them. You give them food, water, place to sit, kind words, any services for the comfort of the guests, such as bathing facilities and a place to rest. It's like you're treating them like a king, basically. When the guest first arrives, you should go out to meet him. And when the visitor departs, you should accompany him at least out of the premises or the yard. So Indians will always do this. When you drive up their home, generally they'll be out there or they'll come to the door, but they'll always walk you out. It's nice, right? At least walk them to the door. Offering simple or elaborate worship. You may worship the guests with 2 articles, sandalwood paste and flowers, or garlands, or a seed and water for washing the feet. Giving such gifts as cloth, gold, money, or grains. According to the Pancharatriki Bidhi, this is how you show respect to a superior. You rise from your seat when a superior approaches. In other words, if you're sitting down, you stand up. Because if you don't, it's like you don't think they're worth being stood up for. I mean, that's not the proper way to say it. They didn't. So, identifying oneself by name and offering greetings. My name is so-and-so. Hare Krishna. Offering prostrated obeisances with 5 or 8 limbs. Offering obeisances. What we discussed today? Full dandafat is 8 limbs.
Parts of the body touching. Oh, it's for the
con 4 extremidades, pero dice 4 extremidades, ¿cuáles? Yo no me asusto.
Okay. Proper behavior as a guest.
Un comportamiento adecuado como invitado.
A Vaishnava guest should behave ideally, whether his host is another Vaishnava or a well-wisher of the Vaishnavas.
Un invitado debe de comportarse, y aun si está con un anfitrión que es Vaishnava,
What follows are a few commonly accepted points of etiquette for Vaishnava guests.
Son 5 puntos de la etiqueta Vaishnava para los invitados.
1.
El primero,
If you are an invited guest,
si eres un
you should not overstay your invitation.
no debes de prolongar tu invitación.
For example,
Por ejemplo,
if invited for a meal,
si eres invitado para la
you may rest a short time after the meal to aid your digestion. Well, they just told us not to rest after the meal. Anyway, another controversy here. To rest or not to rest. But do not burden your host by staying and conversing for several hours unless encouraged to do so. In other words, like someone says, would you like to come for lunch? No, they have a life, and you'd like sit there talking to them for 3 hours. Unless they want to, it's not respectful. Do not bring your own guest on the strength of your invitation. If you wish to invite other guests, ask your host permission. I think this one's outdated. If you are permitted to use a telephone, fax machine, or other such facilities, offer to pay accrued expenses. Maybe in India. Like now, I don't know here, but in America, you just have unlimited calling anywhere. But you used to have to pay for long-distance calls. So your guest would come, you'd stay a few days. Then after you leave, you'd have like an $80 toll call bill, in long-distance call. Because they're gurus and they have disciples all over the world, Before Skype and all the, digital communication, that's what would happen. You have this nice, humble devotee, and he'd spend all his money just to feed the sannyasi, and then he'd get his phone bill, like expensive phone bill from all the long-distance calls. When planning to visit a friend or acquaintance uninvited, like you're inviting yourself, basically. Can I stay with you? Try to let your prospective host know when you will arrive and how long you will stay. And I guess the sentence after that should say, and don't stay longer than you said you would. Right? Oh, here's another one. This is total Indian, but you could adjust it. It says, don't arrive at your host house at noon or early afternoon when the deity and the persons in general rest. That means in that culture everybody rests after lunch. Don't come at that time. I adjust that too. Like usually when I visit people's homes, I'll just arrive, like 7, 8 o'clock at night, because I know they work. And if I say I'm coming earlier, that means they'll have to leave work. If I can avoid, if I have a choice, I'll just, I'll ask them what their schedule is and when they're home, and I'll work with it. If you stay for some days at your host's house, it is appropriate to give token gifts as a gesture of gratitude. That's a good point. Always give gifts when... You should give great attention to receiving senior Vaishnavas, sannyasis, and especially your spiritual master. Before the Vaishnav guest arrives, his living quarters should be arranged, cleaned, and provided with necessities, such as a mirror, tilak, towel, drinking water, and fresh bedding. Drinking water, fresh bedding. If possible, provide a set of Prabhupada's books. Nice. You might want to have incense and flowers. Actually, the most important thing is internet connection these days. Forget the flowers, just want the internet connection. Right? When a Vaishnava guest arrives, you should go out and greet him, preferably with a kirtan, garlands and sandalwood, unless it's cold. Offer obeisances and kind words. And you should direct the guest to a seat. If you are receiving your spiritual master, you should worship him at this time. with his permission by offering him arti, flowers at his feet, and paying obeisances.
dando sus reverencias con arte.
You should be prepared to offer the guest prasadam immediately.
Debes estar listo para ofrecerle al huésped prasadam de
But you should first inquire whether the guest wishes to bathe or rest before accepting prasadam.
Si quiere bañarse o descansar antes de darle prasadam.
And then, when it's appropriate, introduce him to other residents of the house or temple.
Visitar la residencia o
And then,
ir al templo.
and then ask if there's any service you can do.
Preguntar si hay algo de servicio que pueda hacer.
You may also ask the guest how long he intends to stay,
Como huésped debes decir cuánto se está
taking care not to give the impression that you're looking forward to his departure.
cuidando de no darle impresión de que
This is hard to take care. Sometimes it can be hard to take care of guests, right? But you should encourage your guest to stay longer than he had planned.
que no debes de alentarlo a quedarse
Thing is, if you grow up in India,
Sí,
this is all ingrained in you. You just don't have to read this. You do
Ni
this,
siquiera tienes que leer esto, eso es
right?
implantado en ti.
Is that true, Guru Nishta?
Es verdad, ¿no?
Wow, what happened? So, hold on, everyone.
Espérense todos.
There's some chat going on here.
Ahí está el chat.
Oh, it's a story. Which book are we reading from? Vaishnava Etiquette, get it online. Chowpatty Temple.
Templo de Chalpati, de la etiqueta Vaishnava.
There's a pastime where Lord Vishnu came disguised to a merchant and begged from him, but the merchant lied and said he had no wealth. So, Lord Vishnu took all his wealth away to humble him. Then he could understand that it was Vishnu, and so he apologized. It's in the Srimad Bhagavatam, but Kush says she can't remember. If we follow Indian culture, should we not let anyone leave our house without offering them something to eat or drink? Yeah, at least, say if you're poor, you just offer water. Even a maintenance guy. Well, the last maintenance guy at Guru Nisha's house stole her necklace or something. So maybe with maintenance guys, say you want some water, but take it outside. I know, was that at your house? Was that at your house, Guru Nishta, or some other? Yeah, like the apartment complex. They hired some company to do something, and the guy stole something. Yeah. All classes are recorded, Antonio. No problem.
Leaving?
Daylight saving, yeah, confuses me. Oh, they don't have daylight savings over in. No, they say in Vrindavan they always have khichdi. Something, right? Title of the book? That's just a PDF, a manual of Vaishnava etiquette and lifestyle. That's what it says on top. Just Google Vaishnava etiquette, see what comes up. It's based on the Hari Bhakti Vilas, but it was just, this book is just done by the Chowpatty Temple. Mm-hmm. Hindus do it with a fire sacrifice. What? Somebody comes? The Guru Nishta, the exterminator came, sent by the apartment managers, and he stole Tulsi and a gold chain. And the apartment people said, it's not our responsibility. So now, was it good he stole? Because then he got to touch Tulsi? Or is it bad that he stole? The answer is both. Was good he touched Tulsi, and bad he stole from a devotee. And good thing, Guru Nista, you're not a pure devotee, because if you were, he would really suffer. Since you're not yet a pure devotee, you won't have to suffer so much. So there are advantages to not being advanced in Krishna consciousness. You may also ask your guest how long he intends to stay. Do not give the impression you're trying to get rid of him. Encourage him to stay longer. Okay, so it's 7:07, so any questions? I mean, 7:07 my time, that's 9:07 your time, in Eastern Standard Time. Any questions? Or more comments? Veda Hare Krishna. Okay, we're going to check out this link and see if this is the Vaishnava manual. Yeah, that's it. That's it. That's the link. Antonio found the link. He gets 5 gold stars. Kush says stay longer, but after class we're eating tapioca pudding, right? I don't know. I don't know if I can control myself. It's tapioca pudding. It's not every day you get tapioca pudding. The only way I'll stay longer is you ask a really good question. If it's not a really good question, I'm not going to stay longer. So this is how you get rid of questions. Oh yeah, you can watch me eat and have the dinner conversation. Say, this is how you. If you don't want to answer a question, if someone says, "Can I ask a question?" and then you say, "Only one," and they say, "Only one?" And you say, "Yeah, no more questions. You asked it." You understand? I can only ask one question? Yeah, it's finished. No more questions. You asked your one question. Marina has a question. If, for example, somebody can't pronounce Hare Krishna properly, do they get the same benefit? Well, Marina, I would say that probably most devotees in the Hare Krishna movement do not pronounce it properly. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Now, how many devotees chant like that? Nada uno in Mexico. So, all the devotees in Mexico are probably not chanting properly. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. My name's Mahatma Dasa. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. He's my guru. So probably there's not that many devotees that are pronouncing it properly. So it's pronounced differently by practically every country. They pronounce it a little differently. So I'll tell the story. Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna, Krishna. Ari, Ari, Ari Rama, Ari. Ari, Ari. You say Ari or Hari? Ari? Say Ari. South America, they say Ari. Ari, Ari Krishna, Ari Krishna. Ari Krishna.
H is silent, so they say Krishna.
H is silent, so then it's Ari.
Krishna.
Krishna. Ari Krishna. Ari Krishna. Let's see what Krishna means. Maybe it's another word. Hold on, everyone. We're going to the database. K-R-I-S-N-A. Krishna. Right? Ari Krishna. Oh, it's misspelled here. Krishna. It's the Hitler. No. There is no such word in Sanskrit.
Remember that.
So, but, Marina, we have a problem. This is a problem south of the border. Ari in Sanskrit is enemy.
Ari significa enemigo.
Ari. So Ari Krishna is enemy Krishna.
Enemigo Krishna.
But
Pero
it's the mood with which you chant that's important.
el humor en el que cantas es importante.
So Krishna knows what's going on.
Entonces Krishna sabe lo que está pasando. Krishna sabe lo que está pasando.
Krishna knows. Krishna knows what's going on. He knows you don't know pronunciation. He knows you call him an enemy.
Pero sabe que lo llamas un enemigo.
In Japan, I don't know. I'm not around Japanese devotees. But yeah, Chinese also difficult. My name Tana. I learned the Chinese accent from my daughter. She does Chinese accent. Very good. My daughter. Chinese, Russian, and Chinese English, Hindi English, Russian English, and Latin American English. She does.
She can do Chinese?
With English with a Chinese accent, Russian with a Chinese accent,
Hindi too?
Hindi perfect Hindi accent, and perfect South American, not Mexican, South American, Colombia. I'm from Colombia. So Prabhupada never really, got into our pronunciation. I think it would have been impossible to try to get everyone to perfectly pronounce. So it was always, always focused on the mood. Can you chant in your mind? Asked Kush. Prabhupada said it's one of the processes, but it's only for advanced devotees. He didn't recommend it. I mean, I've done it when I was extremely tired or sick, or I just didn't have energy. But generally, we should chant at least quietly, silently in your mind. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. That's okay, but it's a process. But Prabhupada once said that chanting silently is not kirtan; it's smaranam. It's remembering.
Pero Prabhupada dijo que si no lo dices con la voz es recordar, no es kirtan, no es decir.
One time Prabhupada was teaching one devotee Gayatri mantra, and the devotee couldn't get it right. Prabhupada just laughed. Said, "You'll never get it right." He said, "But Krishna understands." Krishna's not a bad guy. He understands. What else? ¿Qué más? I mean, one could ask the question, do you need all this etiquette? And it takes so much time, but it keeps you in the mode of goodness, and it improves relationships. And it's, every culture has a culture.
Y cada cultura tiene
And this
una
is the
cultura.
culture of Vaishnavism.
Y esa es la cultura del Vaishnavismo.
Vaishnava what?
Vaishnavismo,
Oh, that's how you say it? The culture of Vaishnavism?
del
Va-
Vaishnavismo.
Vaishnavism.
Del Vaishnavismo.
Not
Pero
Vaishnavism.
pues esa-
Not Vaishnavism. Vaishnavism. Vaishnavism.
Vaishnavismo.
Vaishnavismo? Oh.
Pues es
Vaishnavismo.
la misma terminación. Ism en inglés es ism.
So, we have a culture, right? And just like in any society, they have a culture. And so educated persons, they know the culture, right? They follow it. Yes?
¿Sí?
So, cultured Vaishnavas, they have a way of relating to one another,
Tienen una forma de relacionarse unos con
speaking, serving. It's part of the culture, and it's all about respect and honor
otros. Se
and
trata sobre el honor y respeto,
humility.
humildad.
Kush, she knows if I start speaking about Prabhupada, I'll speak for the next 3 hours.
Que ella sabe
I know what she's up to.
hablar de
I have her
Prabhupada,
figured
empieza
out.
a hablar de Prabhupada, hablar por los
You
años
can't
pasados.
fool me, Kush.
No me puedes engañar.
So Antonia's saying about being considerate and polite. Yeah, it is. And then and it's also about being clean and understanding what is the standard of cleanliness for a Brahmin. I caught Kush in the act. She's guilty. You have to chant 64 rounds tomorrow, Kush. To atone for your sin. All right. My favorite memory of Prabhupada. We'll oblige, but I'm not going to speak a lot.
¿Quién no va a hablar mucho?
Su memoria favorita de Tilak.
As I said before, that the interesting thing about answering this question is, just like whenever you're doing something, there's a sense of taking it for granted, or because it's just normal. Just like we're all here together, right? So if one of us dies, then it's like a huge loss. But we're not thinking anybody's going to die soon, so we kind of just take it for granted we'll all be here. So it was like that with Prabhupada. It wasn't like we had any perspective on there's a future when he's not going to be here and we're going to have to live our whole life without him. It was just so it became what was normal for us. Just having him there was normal. So in one sense, everything was special. In another sense, everything was normal. It's like both. I don't know if that makes sense. It was all special, but it was all normal. So, I mean, just being in his presence, hearing class, this is so special. Being there for kirtan, for Guru Puja, it's like just exciting and ecstatic. Also exciting because wherever Prabhupada went, so many devotees went also. So everything's memorable. But I remember offering Guru Puja to Prabhupada, and his whole concern was he was just watching. He was just watching all the devotees to see what was going on. He was always very observant. So he was a bit oblivious. He was taking worship as a service. You could really see that it was just a service. He was pretty oblivious to the worship. I was just absorbed in seeing the devotees, watching them chant, and he was always thinking about the devotees and correcting them if needed. But I was offering the arti, and it was almost like I wasn't there. There was just no feeling that he in any way was taking worship.
estaba tomando adoración.
It was just the feeling that he was doing that as a service.
Que lo hacía como un servicio.
There were about 300 devotees there.
Y había como
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. 300 devotees enthusiastically glorifying him in a Guru Puja, but he was just observing it all,
estaba simplemente observando.
like watching what was going on.
Y estaba viendo lo que
Very much like studying. This is the state of our movement now.
este es el estado de nuestro movimiento ahora.
That's all.
Este
So that remains in my mind, just how
Entonces eso permanece en su mente.
transparent he was,
Como qué tan transparente era.
and really you could really feel that
Realmente podía
he was taking that service,
sentir que estaba
taking that worship,
adoración,
just totally as service.
porque era un servicio.
That was obvious to me.
Eso era obvio para él.
Like no tinge of
No había ni
of
siquiera
being affected by
de
being honored.
afectado por ser honrado.
Nothing in his gestures, his face, indicated there was any
Indicaba que
kind of relish of that.
había disfrute en eso.
It was always about service, serving the devotees.
Simplemente siempre se trataba
But
de servir a
one
los
of,
devotos.
one of the nice things about being in any temple where Prabhupada was,
Una de las cosas bellas de
is that
estar en
Prabhupada is always,
Prabhupada,
most of the day, he was preaching to devotees.
él estaba
Managers would come, leaders would come, guests would come.
líderes venían, invitados.
So there was this whole buzz of Prabhupada Katha, because you'd say, well, what did Prabhupada say?
Este círculo
He- He'd go on a morning walk, what did he say? So you talk to the devotees, get the buzz, what did he say? Then he'd give class, then there's the buzz, talking about what he gave in class. And then all throughout the day, people would see, if you knew anybody that saw Prabhupada, you'd say, what did he say? Or people would offer that in general, in the class the next day. So it's always this buzz of Katha. It was just surcharging the atmosphere. So that was one of the nice things about being somewhere where Prabhupada was. Because the whole place was just so inspired by that Katha. It was just... it was like, when somebody comes, you might get excited. Oh, so good to see you. It was like that constantly. You could imagine being in that state. It was like constant excitement. Because the thing is, it's like I remember one day in Los Angeles, Prabhupada wanted to visit all the departments. Because normally he stayed in his room, or he went in his garden after the morning walk. You wouldn't really see him after the class. And so, he's, walking across the street to go to the different departments. And that's like a big thing. You think about it. You never see you see your spiritual master a few days a year. And he's the guru of the whole Hare Krishna movement, which is creating a revolution. He's a pure devotee, sent by Lord Chaitanya. And you get to see him walking around the street. That's like huge. Hugely inspiring. So that's why it was like a constant state of excitement. Prabhupada's walking across the street, All of a sudden there's like 200 devotees, showing up like, ants and sugar. It's like, how did all those ants know that there's sugar over here? They came from 4 miles and, a 4-mile radius. So it was like that with Prabhupada, somehow the word would get out. And when he would go out for a morning walk, the whole temple would greet him. He'd get in his car, and hundreds of devotees would Haribol, say goodbye. So it was just always exciting that he was there. So it was a high state of excitement, like all the time. Now in some temples, go to some temples, doesn't seem like anybody's excited about anything. Isn't it? Well, you haven't been in so many places, but I travel a lot in some places. Not that exciting, to be honest. You see the devotees and they kind of, they always look so happy. It seems like some places they're overburdened. Yes. But then when Prabhupada was there, it's just like excitement, fire, energy, non-stop. You just like, you'd go to bed and you just couldn't wait to get up in the morning.
Ibas a dormir y no podías esperar a levantarte en la mañana. ¿Qué tiempo?
Could you imagine that? Just being on this edge of excitement all the time?
Estar en ese estado de qué maravilla.
Yeah. And sometimes devotees would feed Prabhupada to get feedback from him, so they started giving him the book distribution scores. Prabhupada, today we distributed so many books. Then Prabhupada would write something, some encouraging words, so that this exchange started going on with the book distributors and Prabhupada in Los Angeles. And so it was just like kind of, creating that rasa. Well, let's tell Prabhupada how many books we're doing. Well, if we're going to do that, let's distribute more books. Because more excitement. So that's when Prabhupada wrote a lot of letters about book distribution. And they'd write him letters. Prabhupada, this is our life and soul. We want to do this. We'll distribute your books for lifetimes. This is so much nectar. Just feeding that and to try to get something back. Then they'd get a letter and say, here. They'd get all the book distributors together. Look what Prabhupada said. You get a letter just means it just came down with his servant from the room. Look what he said. Prabhupada said this. And you get more excited. It was like, yeah. Very energized temple. I don't know if you can imagine what I'm saying, but it's hard to imagine, right? In the present state. Well, some temples are like this. But you also have to understand, you have a whole movement and you have one guru. Everyone in the movement is your god brother and god sister. That's a dynamic we don't have now. So naturally it's exciting. In a sense, Prabhupada traveled to keep us excited. So, when Prabhupada would travel to a temple, although what I'm saying is we had all this katha that we were hearing, but part of it was just, you're his disciple. And you're just there with your guru. And he's a pure devotee, saving the world. That was like the main thing. The instructions, of course, that's the essence. But really, if you ask devotees, they'll probably say it was just seeing him. It was just so important, so valuable. Because it's so powerful to see him. So did I get chastised? Not in person, but in a letter. But it wasn't. If you read the letter, you won't think it's chastisement. But the secretary told me it was, because Prabhupada would tell him what to write. And his words were, "Tell him he's a nonsense." So it didn't come out that way in the letter directly. It just explained why I'm a nonsense, but didn't say, "You are a nonsense." Tell him he's a nonsense. My only credit in service to my guru is that he called me a nonsense. No, he also said I was sincere. That's also. Because what happened was, I went to Vancouver. I was very fired up to make things happen there. I was very enthusiastic. And as I said, I said earlier today, so many devotees came there. They just joined. Like we're so enthusiastic, and we were praying all the time. Oh, Radharani, send devotees, Prabhupada, send devotees. Please help us send it. I told all the devotees, every day before you go, every night before you take rest, pray to Krishna, to Prabhupada to send devotees. It's a good idea. We should do that here, right? Pray. Or pray to help, facilitate our mission, send us people who can help us, especially millionaires. Okay, Prabhu, tonight, every night before you go to bed, you're going to pray to Krishna, send millionaires to Mahatma Prabhu for his preaching. As many as possible. Krishna, don't only send one, send 2 or 3. Yeah. So we were, it actually worked. We were praying that Krishna send devotees, and devotees started coming. So, then the GBC wrote Prabhupada, and I got glorified. And Prabhupada said, this Mahatma or whatever, Prabhu Das, whatever, he's very sincere, otherwise, why is Krishna sending so many devotees? That's how Prabhupada thought it. Thought he must be sincere, was Krishna sending devotees. And we were, it was true. We were very sincere. Oh, you want to know why did Prabhupada chastise me? Because I wanted to take sannyas, and I was like married and like 24 years old, with a son, 1-year-old son or something. Some madness. I was going crazy in household life. I wanted to get out as soon as I could. Yeah. Okay. We decided we're going to change the prayer, everybody. We're going to pray that Guru Nishta becomes a millionaire. You can't really pray, it would be wrong to pray that people give me millions of dollars. I don't know. Maybe we'll pray that they give it to Guru Nishta. That keeps it clean for me, right? I'm just a poor Brahmin. So I didn't feel so bad when Prabhupada chastised me, because I had some bonus points left over from the glorification. But I must have done something right, that Prabhupada was pleased. Because the whole thing is, you just want to please your Guru. It's like, whatever it is you do, you want to please him. And you want to avoid offending him, disturbing him. So, maybe something simple you do, but if it pleases him. I was at Tamakar Maharaj's Vyas Puja. And there was, many people were making offerings. But there was one devotee that was very emotional in a positive sense. A lot of feeling. And my wife turned to me and she said, this is the offering he likes the most, because there's the most feeling there. So to please your Guru doesn't mean you have to be anyone special. Prabhupada was easily pleased. There's a mood, there's devotion, you want to please him. But if you can please your Guru, wow, fantastic. Yeah, Guru Nishta knows my desire, my secret desire. No, actually, you should pray for billionaires, because one of my desires, cherished, heartfelt desires, is to build a community where all the devotees can live together. So they don't have to be living and working in all these different places. And then to develop a business where all the devotees who are living together work in the same business. And the business is like 9 to 6, so you work normal hours. And you live together. That's my dream come true. I would take many births just to get that done, because I think it's so valuable. Could create a community where you live together and you work together and you worship together. Because if devotees don't have to work in the outside world and connect with all that, they're much happier and they're better off.